You're running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, traders. Hope everyone's having a great start to your day here. Howard with your pre-market prep, get you started for your day. I don't know what we're going to see today. You know, yesterday it was pretty clear that we would see a down day. We actually saw that only really run through the first hour or so of the day. And then after that, we saw a nice little rebound you know, across the indices. So, you know, we had the big fall, but then we moved back from there pretty nicely yesterday. As you can see, had a nice little recovery here and finished up, you know, down for the day 1%. But when you consider that we had been down in that 592 area, getting back above 600, it's a heck of a, you know, rally for the afternoon. You know, there's volatility from, you know, the war are definitely what is hitting us as investors. Try again to assess the potential impact of the escalating, you know, Middle East conflict. You know, and what we've seen again has been some excuse me, a little bit of a cough here. I apologize for that. A little bit of craziness, you know, both ways. Market reactions have been swift to both the downside and the upside. Volatility, you know, that has come down. But when I say come down, it's still at 22.47. So volatility, people are still paying a high premium to, you know, for volatility here. So, you know, not up at that level of 28 that we saw yesterday as we hit the market open, basically, but still rather elevated at 22.44%. And so far, as I mentioned, NASDAQ's looking to open up about a 0.5 percentage point, and the two other indices, the S&P and the Dow, are both slated to open up at least 0.25 point to the upside. So, again, the market seems to be shrugging it off a little bit here, definitely better than it was yesterday morning. So we'll see if that continues through the cash open. We do have some economic data coming out today that could change people's or sway people's minds a little bit. We'll see if it does. Rates are a little bit of a mixed bag. The 2-year now gone negative on the day. So the short-term yield has just gone slightly negative. And while we are still, you know, seeing a little bit of a higher rate across the 10 and 30-year, again, they've come down since the highs that we saw earlier this morning, about 3 a.m. And again, the highs that we saw yesterday around 9 a.m. So they are coming down from those levels, giving a little bit more breathing room to risk on assets. Same thing with the dollar, still sort of elevated, but it has moved back down below 99 into the 98 range. and again, giving a little bit of breathing room. What we have seen, though, for sure, is that King dollar is back in play as folks have gone to the exits and into, some currencies. We definitely have seen over the last 3-4 days, or over the last 2 weeks, quite honestly, that the dollar is where they are going there as it's outpacing that basket of other currencies the DXY is based upon. Gold is moving back up here. So again, after yesterday's sell-off, a nice little recovery, almost 2% here, back at 51.86. Silver up even more, up about 4.5% almost today, back at 85.57. So after that sell-off yesterday, again, we're seeing folks move back into those, it's what was strong before is what's coming back first. And that's the case there. Oil has come down, both WTI and Brent, as geopolitical concerns there start to wind down a little bit. As number one, we saw first the president, and then this morning, U.S. Secretary of Treasury Bessent reiterate that if needed, the U.S. will escort ships through the straits and hopefully free up some of that gas and natural gas that is needed across the globe. Also, they pointed out, or at least Secretary Treasury did today, that SPR reserves, not just here in the U.S., but around the globe, were pretty good. So there was some leeway there. Supply, not a big constraint yet. Crypto, great little run here, back above 71. Tried to get up above the highs, or to the highs that we saw back on February 8th, but unable to get quite there. Did a nice natural, pullback, but again, solid where it's at, using 70,000 and used about 72.50, I think, as support, and then started to get it regain its growth. If we can hold above that 70K level today, that would be really strong for a continuation on Bitcoin. If we do see us reject here, it would keep in place basically the same trading range that we saw, because again, we've spent a few days in this range here back on February 7th and 8th, and then again on the 14th and 15th. So question is, can we actually break to a higher level? I will say again, on-chain metrics, well, that's a mixed bag today. ETF spot flows are fantastic. We're seeing still that's holding up. Spot buying, mostly led by those ETFs, is holding up. Almost another $500 million yesterday in ETF inflows into the US-based Bitcoin ETFs. So again, now we're at almost $2 billion added over the last 7 to 10 days. That is a very positive construct for us. And for me, it was more because I was curious as to, had we seen a rotation? We had seen a lot of the crypto traders move into that silver and gold trade, right, over the last month or so, as that volatility had increased even more than Bitcoin's. So to see them moving up in tandem, it shows me still again that it's not retail that's moving into IBIT and the other ETFs, but it is these institutions or hedge funds, whatever. But that is a more positive construct for the market. The negative is that open interest, I mentioned yesterday that open interest hadn't picked up tremendously. We did see a pretty big 10% or more move in open interest. So we'll have to keep an eye out. But I will say a lot of it is shorting the market right now. So we do see, when you look at on-chain metrics, that long-short ratio has moved to the negative side, as a lot of folks are saying they think this is the top, localized top, same area we hit in early February. So that means one thing. It means it could give an explosive move to the upside, could see a real move, a real set of liquidations, if the bulls can keep control today. So that's what you're watching there. Like I said, anything above 70 is a positive construct for today. And if you break that 72 area, you probably see a huge amount of liquidation, short squeeze continue to get moved as those have to cover, and could send us up towards 74 or so. So positive construct there. The market's coming back. The market's shown a resiliency in general. That is fairly positive. Also, overseas, a little bit of a mixed bag. I don't keep the South Korean Kospi on here. I probably should add it. And that's really been in the news here. Where did it just go? Oh, I just put it there, not here. I'll move it up next to my other world markets. They are just got drilled again. And this is an interesting one. If you don't know what's happened there, is retail traders in South Korea have been barred from shorting individual stocks. And since that's happened, the market has taken an absolute crash from 6,300 down to the 5,000 on 5,100 it's at right now. And a lot of this is the semiconductors. Basically two companies make up about 50% of this Kospi index, which is Samsung and Hyundai's chip manufacturing leg. So an interesting one that I just think we want to keep an eye on here. And it's been a pretty good bellwether, although it hasn't, now it's broken away from that. It had been a pretty good bellwether for how semis were trading, especially storage semis, with Micron had been following this, and some of the other storage names, Seagate, SanDisk. So I think we need to add it to the things we look at, but they're down about 12%. Nikkei has rebounded. We know yesterday they were down about 5%. Today they did rebound. Nice little double bottom on the hourly chart you can see here, and bouncing back pretty well here. Hong Kong is down about 2%, so they continue to see that downward move in China. It did bounce off of the lows earlier today, but still weak there. And what's promising for us is seeing the European stock market start to tick back to the upside. So again, do we follow that path we'll see today? Looking at the sectors of the S&P, they are fairly all in the green today. Energy is down, as you can imagine, with just a natural reaction to what has been stock prices across a wide swath of the energy sector, but also with WTI pulling back slightly and Brent crude pulling back. This would be a natural reaction there. The leaders have sort of changed here because it's gone to technology. XLK is right now the leader, up almost a full percentage point today. It had been industrials. They've pulled back a little bit now. So industrials had been the leader earlier. Communication still strong. It was a morning, it's been strong all morning. There also, the rest of the indices are, doing pretty well also, but those are the two that were exceeding everything else. I do see now that consumer discretionary is picking up pretty decent also here. So do see that's going on. Taking a look through the Mag 7. NVIDIA up about 1.18% here. Trying to get back towards the highs of the week, which would be in that 183.51 area. Right now it's at 182.17. So trying to get back up towards that spot. There it was down about 1.33% yesterday with everything else. So not too surprising to see that. Same thing here. Apple is down about another 21 basis points here, trading at 263.20. Yesterday down about 37 basis points. So it's continuing just to sort of meander around the same area. Google's up slightly this morning. They were down about a percentage point yesterday, so not much to see there. Microsoft actually surprisingly soft, I guess, since it was the most beat up. It's the one that's recovering here last 3 days. Software has bounced back in general over the last 3 days. A lot of that across CNBC and the other news coverages, as folks come on and say, okay, software has now, got to a point where it is back to being a decent value. Amazon up again today, trading at about 209.91. Meta, same thing, up, both yesterday and today at 658.50. And Tesla, which yesterday was the one still under the most pressure, down about 2.7% yesterday, is now up almost 2% here today. So we are seeing a pretty good move by some of them. Looking across the different morning gainers and laggards. Laggards, there wasn't a ton in here earlier. As I did mention, what you have seen is some energy names that are pulling back. So you have OXY, Occidental Petroleum pulling back a little bit. APA is pulling back a little bit. ConocoPhillips pulling back a little bit. EQT pulling back a little bit. So those energy names are making up a decent swath of the laggards. You have a couple of defense names again that had been, doing better than the markets over the last few days, like Halliburton, HAL, Kinder Morgan, KMI, L3, Harris Technologies, LHX. So some of those, Patterson, UTI, those are moving back down a little bit, but not a bunch there. Two laggards on earnings. Webtoon Entertainment got hit really hard here today. They had a big miss in general. They had a loss during the quarter of $2.36 a share on revenue of about $331 million. So they're down about 15% on that. They're the biggest laggard there. And then GitLab, the open sourced software company, down about 11.31%. They did actually have a revenue beat here. The company guided fiscal year revenue between 1.12 billion, and they see their adjusted earnings ranging between 76 to 80 cents a share, which was below the $1.05 estimate. So again, hit their earnings from last quarter, but their forward guidance has not been very positive, and that does have them moving to the downside here, down about 11%. A couple other names down here this morning on earnings misses: DAKT, Daktronics, also Frog down here about 4.12%. Didn't see if there was news why there. Not really. But that's the movers to the downside. And as I said, not a ton of those, almost the exact opposite of yesterday, where we do see a huge swath of the market that's moving to the upside. Some of the names moving up to the upside here are SSRM, the mining company, up about 16.51% here today. Other names in general, or sectors in general, that are looking really strong. With Bitcoin strong move, you can imagine that's got MicroStrategy up about 7.7% here this morning. Back at about 143 here today. So breaking all the resistance it had from the last couple of weeks here. Could be one to keep an eye on for sure today. Coinbase moving up also at 195. Nice recovery here. Other crypto names, crypto mining name Mara is one of the leaders in here, up around $9.20. We do also see that some of the earnings names moving to the upside. Brown-Forman on their earnings today, the big liquor company, parent company of Jack Daniels, up nicely here at $30, so up about 6.65% today here on their earnings beat. So good to see that from them. Other names that are moving up today are Ross Stores. That, whoops, I hit the wrong button there. Ross Stores, they had an earning beat here today. They are up about 6.56% so far today. The discount brand retailer reported better than expected fourth quarter financial results. It was their fourth quarter in a row where they showed rising sales. So I think that's more than anything else. What has it moving up today is that this isn't a one-off. They've shown that they have had momentum here for the better part of the last year. Company earnings came in at $2 per share, about 10 cents above the consensus estimate, and 6.64 billion in revenue passed there. So Ross Stores here opening up around 210.64, and that would be a 52-week high for them. So again, value there if you're looking for other stores that might get some sympathy plays. TJ Maxx, TJX usually moves in sympathy here, and they're not up as much, only up 14 basis points, but you could see them move today. Other stores or other companies that have had nice moves in the pre-market. Moderna up about 9% here this morning. That is after they agreed to pay and finally resolution. As we know, the markets and traders like clarity, and getting a little bit of clarity today as they settled with Biopharma Corp and Genevant Sciences over a COVID vaccine patent dispute. They're going to pay up $2.25 billion. So that does have them moving up on that news there. Another moving up on its earnings here today, CrowdStrike. BigBeat, I believe, mentioned this one yesterday that he was interested there. They're up about, well, now only up about 14 basis points, but up to almost 2% in the last two trading days here after the cybersecurity company beat analyst estimates for the fourth quarter. They came in with about 1.31 billion, just above revenue estimates, and $1.12 in EPS, up again about 12 cents from where estimates came in. So that does have them moving in the right direction here, not blowing away the market, but it at least held up where many other software names that have been under pressure, and this one is one that has been under pressure. We definitely need to keep an eye there on that. Some others that have been doing pretty well on earnings, or another that's done pretty well on earnings, Box, which is the cloud company there, cloud storage company, up about 7, now almost 9% in the last 24 hours here. They had a good beat on both top line revenue of about about $1 million. And then they had, again, a nice little beat of almost 15 cents on their earnings beat. So nice little move there on Box. So happy to see that also today. So we do have, again, earnings are showing more to the upside today than the downside. We did have a couple with down that did hit downside earlier. We do have a few names to keep an eye on today after earnings. One of them would be American Eagle Outfitters, AEO. Keep an eye on them today. They are up about 1.17%. They'll be coming into earnings. Okta, another one that's been a hot name of recent times. They are also coming into earnings today, up about 92 basis points. And again, in general, market is looking pretty good. One I'll be watching today, Rigetti, is going to come into earnings after hours, the quantum computing name. I just hit the wrong one. We know that they were under pressure yesterday as Qubit took the market down after their earnings. So let's see if they can recover. You do have the fintech and crypto exchange, brokerage exchange, Webull reporting after hours, and then StubHub. So we got some decent earnings after hours that will be interesting. I talked a little bit about what's coming up on the economic calendar, or mentioned that we had some stuff coming up on the economic calendar today. We do have, let me pull it up here. We do have ISM coming up with their service business activity, PMI prices coming. And then we also have at 10:30, we're going to have, first we have PMI coming in here in about 48 minutes at 9:45. Forgot about that, S&P Global PMI. Then we have an ISM at 10. At 10:30, we get some crude numbers, and then the beige book from the Fed comes in at 2 o'clock. So a little bit there that we'll keep an eye on today. On that side, advanced decline right now has been fairly positive most of the morning, and advanced decline is up around 1900. So, yesterday we ended the day down 56.92 to the downside. So it is good to see a reversal there, but it not making up across the entire sector or the entire market. It is, selected spots that are seeing more strength than others today. Sectors I'm watching for sure are the crypto adjacent names. If we really do see the next big move on Bitcoin, and again, we do have the opportunity for some squeeze potential for sure today, with a lot of shorts entering the perps market in the last 12 to 24 hours. That could take up the names like MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin mining names like Mara. Keep an eye on those sectors. Energy names are under pressure today. They could continue to slide if things start to, or the rhetoric, at least in the Middle East, is we're going to get ships through the straits. Also, as I mentioned, Secretary Bissett came on today and sort of alleviated fears too, made it clear that they will escort people as needed, brought up that not just our SPR, but most of the world's SPRs, their reserves are pretty topped off right now. So that's good to know also. And then the jump back in metals has metal miners moving back to the upside. As gold and silver see a move to the upside, we'll ask BigBeat here in a few seconds whether he thinks that could continue. But, traders are showing a willingness to invest and trade in this market. That's good to see. The dollar, it has cooled off a little bit here today, so that could help a little bit also. Volatility is still very high at 22.34. So while it's down 5% since yesterday, keep in mind it's still at a pretty elevated level. So you are still paying for volatility in the options market, and we'll see what we got there. I see he's already in the room, ready to go early this morning. We'll get his intro lined up and get him in here.
When markets move, Stephen E. Orr takes the chair. From the White House to Wall Street, he's spent decades at the intersection of policy, markets, and real capital. And he's seen firsthand how institutions use data behind closed doors. Now, as founder of Quasar Markets, his mission is to pull those signals into the open so everyone can see what really moves the markets. This is Stephen E. Orr, BigBeat on Wall Street. Let's filter the future live.
BigBeat, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
Good morning, Howard. AI's dead. Crypto's dead. Market's dead. World's dead. It's over. Go back to bed. That is the biggest nonsense we've heard over the last month, and CoreWeave now up 6%. If you listen to us, CoreWeave up 6%. MongoDB up. NVIDIA up. HUD up. All the stocks we've been talking about. Why? Because they're not dead. It's whatever the narrative is today. People are getting nailed on that almost every day. They're getting sucked into this thing where it's whatever the narrative is in social media, and they're hoping that you'll follow suit and that the social media will pick up in the algos, and the algos will take over, and the algos will start doing everything. And it's a terrible, 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 terrible way to get into it. And then your psyche gets infected. And then you say, oh, the world's over. Oh, my God, crypto's dead. Bitcoin's dead. Bitcoin, 71,500 already. Why is it that people can't seem to buy Bitcoin when the markets are down, yet they can't get out when the markets are high? 126, most of us got out, got a lot of it off, right? Started buying back around 90, bought a whole bunch back at 70, bought a bunch back at 65. Loving this, right? Dollar cost averaging. It's exactly what you're looking for. And we had it. And this is what I wanted, and we got it. And it didn't matter that there was a war going on. It didn't matter that, Miran's running around saying, gotta cut rates. World's falling apart. Dissent says, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah, I don't think that's the case. As you said, crypto looking really, really, really good today. And we've got, as I said, there are shorts entering. Now we're at a spot where it should, let them. And we should see a natural pullback and consolidation at 70 and then march for the next run up from there. But a lot of this is going to be short move in here. And
the shorts have been wrong all along. Even the shorts that got right, they've been wrong. I mean, from 0 to 126,000, they've been wrong. And the majority,
they play both sides. Remember, shorts aren't necessarily shorts. These are players that play both sides of the perps.
Might be, yeah.
They are, because it's back. The volume's back. Is open interest picked up 5% yesterday. So to 10% yesterday. So open interest is back. The perp traders are back, and it's interesting to me because I was watching to see, this is happening while gold and silver is moving back to the upside right now today too. So, because we had seen a lot of traders, quite frankly, that had moved from crypto and were trading silver and gold. So I was wondering if yesterday's drop there, did that go into Bitcoin? I don't think so. I think
a lot of this is Asian money, right? It happened overnight as Asia was getting nervous about.
No, it's US ETFs.
Yeah, but 12%. The Kospi lost 12% yesterday.
Yeah, Kospi got killed yesterday. But Kospi is getting killed for another structural reason, right?
Maybe.
They stopped letting retail short in Korea.
They got to put money in somewhere. And I think a lot of Asians that were outside of South Korea, because South Korea can't invest in Bitcoin. I think a lot of them was saying, okay, well, you know what? I'll put it in Bitcoin. If I can't put it in the Kospi, I'll put it in Bitcoin. So they did. And I think there's a lot of rolling reasoning behind this. I don't think it's just one reason. I think it's several reasons that we pushed. I mean, we went from 65 to 71.5 in less than a day and a half. It was 68 yesterday.
Yeah, we moved down in a day. This is normal, and and again, the flows don't show that Asian move yet. So we'll see if they start to. Because they're definitely not showing it in the spot volume. They're not showing it in the. I don't mean spot volume. Bother me. Perp, I don't care about perp. Doesn't bother me. Perp is day to day. It's not showing spot volume. That's what you care about. That's the buying. It's not where the market, where spot volume jumped was during U.S. hours for the last 5-6 days. That's where it is, and it's happening because big part of it's $2 billion. But I got alerts. U.S. institutions are coming back in finally. U.S. institutions are coming back in. Because it's IBIT, and it's IBIT at $2 billion in spot in the last 7 days. So it's the sustained institutional inflows that are coming back in. Because those Korean traders they're the perp traders. They are the perp traders.
But remember, the Koreans are also the ones who are invested in the United States too. Asia is the biggest investor in the United States outside of the United States. So they're buying these ETFs as well. I don't mean that.
Well, they've made it much harder for them. That's another thing, because what they've done is that's not easy. That is not just as easy as saying I want to buy it.
I mean, there's a billion ways in Sunday to doing it. And Asian, it's 12% drop. And if the Nasdaq dropped 12%, the president of the United States would not be the president anymore. He'd be gone, right? I mean, that's the level of nonsense.
Yeah, but it's two companies that are 50% of that index.
Samsung and SK Hynix, yeah.
Yeah, so there are other things that play into that sort of instrument that don't show up there, in the numbers there for sure. Steve, we got some economic data coming today. Jobless claims came in. Private payroll didn't seem to move the needle one way or the other. We've got ISM coming in. That's probably the biggest mover today at 10 o'clock.
Yeah. I mean, I think manufacturing is probably the biggest question mark. That's what the president wants. I mean, I don't know what the narrative is anymore. I mean, the narrative is so confused. The chaos is so out of control now. Is it Venezuela? Is it Ukraine? Is it China? Is it is it Taiwan? Obviously now with Iran, and Iran hitting Oman, Iran hitting Saudi Arabia, Dubai, UAE. I mean, it's getting crazy out there. I mean, I've never seen this much nonsense around the world, and it seems that this is what they wanted. And in Cuba, obviously now, wow, there's a lot of nonsense going on, Howard. That and yet the market's still pushing up.
Yeah, no, the market's definitely resilient. Market is definitely buyers are there, volumes there. I think that yesterday there were a lot of folks that maybe were worried about whether or not this was going to be an on the boots on the ground, type of situation. And that's, you think it will be? Okay.
They've already said that twice. They've already said it twice. There'll be boots on the ground. I mean, if you look at Epic Fury, right, was what he's calling it, that they want air superiority first. I had 2 chats with somebody in the rings yesterday. I can tell you that boots on the ground they're implementing it now. They're in the process now, moving troops in. So they're preparing for that. That is why that Iran is targeting bases, because they're trying to make bases unusable. It is why Spain is saying you can't use ours. Portugal's saying you can use ours. But what I'm really concerned about in a lot of ways is that what does boots on the ground mean? Does it mean full-on invasion? 100,000 troops going into Iran? No, but there'll be boots on the ground. There'll be infiltrations. The CIA is already there. We know that, right? They seems like the CIA. I don't want to go into it too deep, obviously, but it's a problem. And let's talk about it from the political side. Last night was an absolute utter disaster for the Republican Party last night. They have not won a single seat, and it's also bad for incumbents. Incumbents really took it on the chin yesterday. The only one that might survive this is possibly the senator from Texas on the Republican side. But Texas is turning blue. I've been saying it, and it looks like Hispanics are not happy. Californians have moved into the great state of Texas, and Texas is turning blue. Oh, it'll never happen. Texas is a red state. Texas has not always been a red state. It's been a blue state for many, many decades. California, by the way, was a Republican state for many, many decades. New York was a Republican state for many, many decades. So no, flipping is not unusual. Look at history. And history is now telling you this is happening again. So if that's the case, come November of the next election, will be a Democrat president. So I'm saying protect portfolios. Whatever you invested in now based on what Donald Trump was protecting, that will be gone. And all those EOs are gone. This will be the biggest lame duck president we've ever had in the history of our country. I'm pretty sure of that. We're already seeing it now. I mean, I would probably guesstimate that by April, May, we'll already start to see the feeling. Why April, May? Because by that time, the elections will be in full gear, full swing. Congress will probably start to wrap up. They'll go out of session probably it depends on when they do. They got a lot to work on, right? Still don't have a DHS budget, Homeland budget. So there are things they got to work on. And they don't want to go back to their constituents saying, why do we not have a Homeland budget? It's exactly why we sent the Republicans to power is for immigration. And you don't even have an immigration budget. Why? Well, they can blame the Democrats, they can blame the Republicans, and that's what they'll fight about. They don't want that fight. They want other fights about that. So I expect it to be March, April, May, and then it'll be over. And the president will just have to do about flying. You watch the number of EOs that come out of the White House. That'd be the auto pen. You think Biden did an auto pen? Trump's auto pen, they'll have to put 2 or 3 in the White House to keep it going. So
yeah, that could be it. Steve, what do you think sector wise today? Are you looking at the crypto adjacent names? You're looking at what are you looking at today?
Biotech. I think biotech is the most underrated. And if you want to look at biotech right now, look at Moderna, mRNA. They just won that court battle up 8%.
Well, they didn't win. They just settled. They settled out of court for $2 billion. Yeah,
that's a settlement. They won because the company itself is worth $20 billion. So for 10% of the company, they got out of a massive issue, and up the price of the stock went up 8%. So they got out of a horn's bill there in a lot of ways. But you know, biotech to me is starting to become like the play, because quite frankly, that's where money is going to start flowing into. I noticed that in the prison systems in Texas, another massive outbreak of measles. Measles, Howard. How is this happening?
Well, that's what I was going to say is, you know, one of the things I've seen a lot of coverage on is the new FDA chief there and how he won't show up in Congress. And I saw both sides of the aisle are upset about it, and hearing from companies, biotech companies, saying that we're, you know, on track with all kinds of stuff, that now their approvals are being delayed or not even going to be given, even though they had been given letters that they would be, or fast track designations. So there seems to be a lot of things going on there too.
The health of the nation is very important, right? I don't know, man. Why we're gonna smallpox come back next? I mean, what's next? I mean, malaria. Are we gonna turn into a third world country because we don't want to take vaccines because we're worried about robots in our body? Like, give me a break, right? I mean, it's just silliness. I don't know. The world's gonna crazy, but you know what? I'm making money off of it. My portfolio now is up 79% this year. No options, only trading. Why? I bet against the president every time, every single time, folks. Just do it and you win. It's not hard to understand this, and I don't give a crap who the president is. I just need to understand their policies and are they going to work? And they don't. Tariffs don't work. We know that. They've been telling us the tariffs that we're the richest country in the world because of tariffs. 91% of tariffs is being paid for by the U.S. citizen. Right? It's not working. It hasn't worked. It's never worked. And it hasn't worked for any country. Never works. Right? Why? It's because we got to get inflation down. Well, that's how inflation happens, when you tack on prices. That's exactly how inflation works. So bet against it. And we did. Bet against him against the Supreme Court. Supreme Court's even voting against him. Bet against him because the American people are betting against him now. So now keep betting against the president. I don't care about the president. I don't care. I don't like him or don't like him. I don't care. But I do know the policies are terrible, and he's getting beat. And that's how I invest, and winning. And you know what? A lot of people are buying gold that supposedly like the president. You don't buy gold when you like the freaking president. You buy gold because you're scared of the president. That's exactly why foreign countries are buying gold, right? They're buying as a hedge. They're buying crypto as a hedge. And the president likes crypto. That's crazy, yep. Right? So when I look at this market, I'm going, okay, 71.7 now. Where are the shorts at? They're getting creamed here. I think we're going to hit 75,000 probably by the end of the week or next week, right? Because they're just, right now, the buyers are stepping in. They're saying, we don't care anymore.
You could hit 74 today if the squeeze happens.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, if it happens, it happens today.
Companies not understanding MongoDB getting beating up CoreWeave. CoreWeave.
Well, they have those money raising issues, so I do get some of that. You know what I mean? But they're also rewarding Mara today, you know, because they're selling Bitcoin to move to data center. So it's a confusing time for some of those companies like CoreWeave and IREN.
They're pivoting, right? They're pivoting
out of Bitcoin mining. Well, even the strongest of the strong, Mara, the one that was raising money like MicroStrategy, has made it clear they're going to sell Bitcoin right now to fund this change because they don't want to end up in CoreWeave's issue,
right?
Where
and
they have,
I don't want a Michael Saylor being the Michael Saylor.
Yeah. We all talk about that. We talk about that all the time.
I want people to own Bitcoin. Yep. I want everybody to own Bitcoin. That's the whole thing. I want people to own pieces of the coin so that they will all part of this ecosystem. If you don't own any bit of Bitcoin, it's like, I don't want Bitcoin because I own gold. That literally is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. It's like me saying, I don't want to own Apple because I own Microsoft stock. I want to own both of them. Right? It's about diversification. And that's the key. And you're seeing it already. People going, oh, but Bitcoin went to 65,000. It's melting. I feel like I'm in a freaking Wizard of Oz movie. Give me a break.
Yeah, it is. I can't argue with you there. It's, overreactions and chasing tails has been a big part of what we see here.
Be the what? The ticker taker.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's what you've always said and you've been doing over the last couple of days. Um, Anything else you're watching here as I get ready to take off? Things I should keep an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I am looking to invest in back into Korea and back into Asia.
I
This
mentioned that
sell-off.
yesterday in my room about looking
Yeah,
at that MCSI, emerging Asia. It's been beaten up here yesterday, beaten up today. Yeah, Kospi, it covers the Kospi and Japan. Because Japan, while it's bouncing back a little bit today, same type of situation there.
I'm also
Um,
looking at Apple too, with all the new products coming out. I had a nice chat with people who buy a lot of Apple products, not for the retail side, for their companies, their creative, and they're not buying this new MacBook Air. I kind of like the MacBook Air. I like the idea that it's easier to transport if you're not doing heavy content, maybe doing videos like I do or we do. And, if you're not producing like full blown movies, you don't need that big machine. So I'm looking at Apple to see, but I'm hearing the same thing. No, I'm not. Trump is now floating the end of seniority shield for federal layoffs. Okay, there you go. Hating on old people now. Isn't he an old person?
That's too funny. Well, Steve, I got to run out of here, so I'll let you bring your charts up and get it going. Quasar, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:30. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, my man. All right, let's get to it. I think everybody wants to see charts. As I've said before, it is a charting. Now, I think to me, we are getting back to charts a little bit because the volatility is picking up. And sometimes you need to find out exactly where those charts are, right? And where are we with the buying and the selling? Now, if you can see here, I have MongoDB up here. Oops. So you can see here what's going on here. It's very simple. I'm going to pull that chart around. You can see though the buyers are and where the sellers are. So there. But for me, this morning, obviously, we saw a massive move here in CoreWeave. I'll pull up a 1 hour chart. This is what I saw, right? Look at that big rounding thing that I put up the other day. That's what I said. I saw this on the hourly chart. I really liked it. And if you notice, I curved it in a way that pulled it back so that it showed that the curve wasn't going to curve and go this way. It was going to curve and curve up and try to get in between that linear regression. Now, we might be getting tired in CoreWeave up here. I understand that, but I think we got more room to run, as well as if you look at a daily chart, there you go. You've got some here, you've got some gaps in here. So this could be some gap buying. And we know that in the past, whenever the sell-off happened, it was a nice bounce back. So this last bout, about 54 all the way up to 85. So we're about halfway through that bounce. And of course, with regression here testing, we could probably see, it's at 104 all the way down to, I think it's at 65, something like that. Probably somewhere around 75, 80. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. And we're right in the midst of that. 71.8 Bitcoin here now continue to push up higher. We know that, as you can see, I did the same thing, the rounding here as well. I knew that in the daily chart, but for me, it was the 1 hour chart that told me everything I needed to know. And we saw that happening, and we saw where the buyers were, and I like this. So I think, as Howard said, we could easily get to 74 today. And here's what Howard's thinking. I think the first move here is 72.3, which is about 500 points higher here. We'll see that. We've already blown through that. I said if we get to 70,000, we'll blow through that like a hot knife through butter. And we did that. Why? Because that was a wall of sellers at 70,000, and then they just creamed them. As I'm still going to say that a lot of this money coming in is Asian money coming in. No, that Howard's going to disagree with me, and I'm okay with that. That's what Howard does. Bitcoin, obviously, crypto, so I'm okay with that. But I think we push on higher here, and look, I think he might be right. 74. I'm not playing it for that. I'm as you know. And I screamed it on this show that I'm buying Bitcoin down here at 64 and 65. And we did a lot that. Why? 1, 2, 3. And if you notice, we talked about it, right? There they are. So that's why I like this. There's higher lows. And I like that a lot. So, yeah. What is today? Tuesday? Wednesday? Pulling up the QQQ here. Same situation. We're up a little bit today. Honestly, I think if you look at right here, you can see this. It's in linear regression and it's bouncing, right? So, you know, for me, I think it's let's follow the line here. Follow the bouncing ball, right? And what are you seeing here? If you and that's the mathematician in me. Very simple. That's a sine wave, right? And this sine wave is very prophetic in that we might come back a little bit here. If I continue the sine wave, that could be what we're seeing here a little bit. So I'm very interested in that too as well. So that's what I'm looking at here in the Qs. Oh, there he is. Steve Flanagan coming in here. We'll get his take. Steve Flanagan, did you watch the elections yesterday?
Yeah, Steve, I did. I don't know. It's just primaries to see who's running. A lot of incumbents got knocked out, which is what we've been echoing for quite some time now, that people are tired with this dysfunctional government. What I thought was really interesting was Jasmine Crockett getting totally wiped out there. That was a rather interesting one. Yeah. I think maybe what we're seeing is a pivot from that far left, moving back towards center.
And when she lost, Steve, she showed her true colors last night. Oh, it's discrimination, and I'm going to sue the courts. This morning she gave up, right? Because that's not the way that the world wants. They're tired of the chaos. They're tired of it. They want normality. They just want to live their lives.
Yeah, what I would take thing is that I do think that as we move through April, and I think you're going to see a sharply, and I underscore that word, improving economy from where we're presently at. Elections are decided in the last 2 months, especially evidenced by our recent presidential elections. Maybe go back three elections, and it seems everything gets decided in the very end when the narratives begin to jump out. But speaking of narratives, how incredible was yesterday? Every headline I read, basically summing it up, everybody traded on inflation and totally ignored a war, and
why? Why, Steve?
The narratives again, Steve, are just dominating. So you had a market that overreacted to prioritizing inflation risks over safe haven. Why? Gold down, silver down. What did come out very clearly, and what I want to make sure that the viewers understand, when you get into these explosive markets, true colors expose themselves. What happened to the dollar de-dollarization narrative that has been forced down the market's throat? As we talked about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, Bank of America released a survey saying that the dollar shorts were at highs not seen in 14 years. Why? And now all of a sudden an event happens. Everybody jumps about inflation and the dollar roars higher. Okay, how high are we going to go? 99.68 was yesterday's high. I've talked about 115 being a very difficult zone to break. I would say right now, I would back off the dollar. We're in that zone where if I caught the move up, I'd be totally out and watching a mean reversion. That's what today will be as a result of yesterday across all the markets. The abnormality, the herd-driven marketplace of yesterday will now today move in a more sensible manner. And you should see, yesterday gave us a lot of opportunities. And that's the type of characteristic in a machine-driven market, which we live in today, we can take advantage of. Steve, you've talked on your show many times now. You've been picking up CoreWeave on the bottom and catching it on the up. This can happen in all of the markets. Take your financial instrument of choice. Why would people be selling 10-year bonds yesterday when the obvious safe haven aspect is to buy a 10-year bond, which I think you'll see today. You're already seeing it and will probably continue. So these abnormalities, these herd mentalities, these AI social media models that pick up on narratives and hammer them home, use them to our advantage. Wait for these moves like yesterday and step in. As an investor, you could have picked up some of these AI-driven names, which are not going away, like a NVIDIA, even though that didn't really come off much yesterday. But opportunities exist, and that's what I want the viewers to see.
And we talked about that, Steve, and almost like a dead horse. I'll remove the chart for a second so we can talk about that. Like, you and I have been doing this for so long that we can separate the wheat from the chaff in our head. We used to pull a paper apart and go, oh yeah, we don't, or today you can't really do that because it's just shoved in your face so much. What's interesting today is I see these new tweets now about this. Oh, this AI is going to replace a human. This AI is going to replace a painter. This AI is going to replace a astronaut. And it's copied and pasted and copied and pasted and blasted and blasted and blasted and a lot of money put behind it. And people start to go, ooh, this must be the truth. What has changed in the psyche of humans that go from, oh yeah, that's nonsense in the paper to, oh my God, I'm seeing it 5,000 times in a tweet. It must be true.
Like any new technology, Steve, what you're describing is the human reaction to, let's say, the advent and growth of social media.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Really, it gets to a point where then everybody can take advantage of it and see how easy, and then everybody begins to get educated. And I think what we're in right now is that education process where people are saying, don't believe what you read.
Right.
You know, and I have, you know, even, you know, some of the seniors in the marketplace like myself now are fact checking things when we see things and go, oh my goodness, is that can't be true? And I plug it back in and it goes, nope, totally false.
Yes, of course. And like, I mean, at what point and this administration's full of it, right? I mean, the fact checking, I think the fact checkers probably shot themselves on the State of the Union. But you look at the sheer number of people that are in the markets and you look at the algos, and sometimes the algos are not separating the wheat from the chaff. They're just going off of every headline.
I got to divide that. There's a difference between fact checking and totally a lie. For example,
okay, yeah,
something I read yesterday all about the government is got all this information on the Obama administration and how they have been behind a major coup. And I was like, wow. And they're quoting Department of Justice and things like that. And I said, you know, wait a second. This doesn't. I went in and sure enough, nope, that's a known bot that loves to spread false narratives. That, I say, will soon, social media will soon have a little dot and will still be identifying things that are just blatant out of no factual base at all versus an opinion. You know, State of the Union, for example, that's what you brought up. Fact check it. Sure, there's a number of things that probably were erroneous, but that's someone's opinion. And that is different than, you know, what I think I'm trying to allude to is where it is totally a fabricated, factual quoting things, which is totally irrelevant. That's what we need to weed out. And I think it will be weeded out shortly, where social media will be responsible for, tagging.
see the market's open now, and I have sold half of my CoreWeave here. I was very heavy, as everybody knows here. I was buying a lot more yesterday on that dip, loved it, and I've sold half of it now. So I do like that move here. And Royal Caribbean up 1.26% too as well. Look at that. Solana at 91 again here. If you held on to Solana, like in that, Intel up to almost 2% here. I like biotech. CRISPR up again. CRISPR up to $59 a share here. Looking at Lululemon is flat on the day here. AI, the company AI itself, C3, up 3.74%. So AI is not dead yet, Steve. Target TGT, company left for dead, up another 4%. It was up 6% yesterday. So things are changing pretty quickly around the world.
Absolutely. And, today is a mean reversion day, as I've said. What is mean reversion for the viewers? It is the most overwhelmed model in the marketplace. Everybody can have with AI today, writing your own program, everybody's got mean reversion. What does it mean? In the last look back, let's look back 1 week. Let's look back 3 months. How about a year? When was the last time MongoDB, for example, or CoreWeave, when was the last time it dropped this much and bounced? And what was the bounce? And they study that. And then, of course, boom, you get a little alert comes up and says, CoreWeave has just fulfilled, or it's never dropped this many percent without having a bounce back. And they call that mean reversion. And that's what I think you're seeing all over the market today.
And I like linear regression. I use it. I think it's the weakest version of learning about the markets, but it makes it easier for people. Sometimes they need to see that, right? If I can see if I can pull that up for people here. But you can see here, this is what he's talking about, linear regression here as well. And then you can see this is where the buyers were and the sellers were. You can see it also. I have it on the volume bars as well, but the volume within CoreWeave is slipping a bit. So I wouldn't be careful here, because the volume is 2.53 million. Average volume is 26 million. So we're already 10% of the volume of the day already. So be careful there. I would say, yes. But
yeah, the risk factor is not going away. Right. So regardless of a report in the New York Times that, they wanted, that's over, done. Unless you get a new government in there, this is not ending.
I mean, the Financial Times wrote an article 2 weeks ago that Bitcoin is the worst investment, or it was the worst thing in the world. And then the New York Times writes, well, it's the worst thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Where's the narrative at today? It's gone, right? It's almost like it's almost like it's time.
And probably one of the biggest
narratives. God, Bitcoin 725 there. We could popping here. Sorry, I'm not paying attention here.
Yeah, there we go. Probably one of the biggest narratives to come out of this last 24, 48 hours now is that the king dollar steps up when the world unravels. And understand, the dollar is a buffer against imported inflation. So the dollar is where all the liquidity of the world is, and it's where the depth of the world, that liquidity is. So when people are concerned, the dollar is just resilient. And this, I think, is my takeaway. I step back. I don't want to be long dollars at these levels here. The euro dollar went down, 116.32 right now. It went down below 116. It closed last week at 118.16. You get a move like that, you step back, you take your money off the table. I am completely flat in the dollar right now, and I want to watch and see. But my bigger theory, I'm looking where this dip is going to be, because I'm going to be all over this dip, because I do think the whole de-dollarization narrative that's been forced down our throat has been totally unbased on any factual evidence. Reports by the BIS still show that the dollar, is still, increasing its overall purchasing.
So Steve, we saw the Dixie now pushing up, and we know there were some sellers there at 99.68 there. We're now down here now. What are you looking at here at 98.92? What are you thinking? If we pull back a little bit further?
Yeah, last week's close 97.65. I would think that somewhere around the 97.80, 98.20, that's
Okay.
the zone I want to buy. If we don't get into that zone, it just shows me that the underlying demand is even stronger than I'm anticipating.
And if you see here what Steve's talking about, you'll see that I put these bars in not too long ago. Look at what he's talking about, 97.82 right there. That's institutional knowledge we want to put into your hands, folks. That's exactly what we do. If I pull this back out, these were the bars that I drew. Higher lows, lower highs.
Whenever
Push
we
it out
have
right
a
there.
breakout, we call that, when the breakout happens, that's where the crime scene is. And you always will, in many cases, you will return to the breakout level, or as we would say on the desk, to the crime scene. If you don't get close, but you start to move in that direction, it levels. As soon as it begins to bounce, it just tells you that the underlying demand is stronger than you anticipated. So
We're
these are
seeing some
little,
telling here, Steve. Iran denies intelligence ministry that they reached out to CIA for talks. So that news, yeah, we're still bouncing off of headlines, folks. So, and the algos are reading the headlines, and and look at that selling. But it looks like that core weave that I just sold. Shit, I might buy it back. I don't know.
Steve, last night when I saw that the United States sent in B-52 bombers, I said to myself, it's over. If you're sending in a lumbering 60-year-old plane that every radar in the world can see perfectly clear, that doesn't travel very fast, has a lot of bombs in it, but if you're sending that in for missions, it's over.
Yeah, you're telling Iran that we can beat you with this. We got more. All right. Yeah.
So
it's still people dying though.
Yeah, from that regard, there is possibility, but then you've got the administration now saying oil can flow freely, and the Navy will make sure of that. I think the impact is over. Yesterday's sell-off was herd-driven mentality, narratives. People were just selling and not looking at the broader macro picture. Why would gold and silver be coming off if everybody was so concerned about inflation?
Right.
Why would the bond be sold if everybody was so concerned about safe haven? So
the 10 years at 4.079. I mean, it's not going up or down right now.
It's going to be a flat, but any move up in the 10-year, you're buying, because rates aren't going back up. You've got a period in the world where you're beginning to see little sparkles of growth, but Japan's unemployment just increased to 2.7%. Australia, after raising rates 0.15, just had a horrendous January building permit number of minus 7.2%, on the year down 15.7%. The Eurozone, okay, inflation up tiny, still under 2%, coming in at 1.9, increasing from 1.7. So unemployment in the Eurozone also showed 6.1% from 6.2. So glimmers of light of growth around the world is a good thing, but rates are all, I believe, going lower. That's my forecast.
Okay.
We're right now March 4th. Next week is the last week before it all breaks loose, when the Fed, ECB, Bank of England, RBA, Australia, Bank of Japan, Swiss National, Bank of Canada, all have meetings on interest rates. And I think you could see some surprises. Bank of England, I think, has to lower rates. I think the United States, to be careful here, should be lowering rates.
Should be, but what do they do? I mean, it seems like they're not going to.
Steve, yet again, we're all chasing ghosts of inflation past. Now, all of a sudden, we see oil spike and everybody, that means inflation's going to go up. Well, if that's your narrative, Where were you when oil was below $60 saying inflation's gone? Well, it's gone. You didn't echo that, so you can't echo now the other side. Either stick to it, a factual basis, or please move aside and let things begin to happen here.
Tick down about tick itself is down about 400 here. I bought CoreWeave back here on 7. It's 76 here. We'll see if I can. I bought a little bit back. It sold half, as everybody knows here. So I may be wrong. I don't know, but I'm not liking the headlines here too much. I'm not playing the headlines anymore. I'm playing common sense, Steve.
Common sense, but Steve, we're in that world. We got to follow those headlines.
Yeah.
Everybody now is talking about, well, he's not a peacetime president, he's a wartime president. Look,
he is.
We had a situation.
He said he was. He said he is though, but he said we're in a war, so he's a wartime president.
We had a situation. Iran's got over 3,000 ballistic missiles.
Yeah, agreed.
They're building 50 a month. They've got one-way drones. They're exporting them. What do you think Russia's been using?
Oh no, I'm with you on this. I think that we need to blow them to hell. I mean, hell in a handbasket. Yeah. I mean, but they should not.
This is how you make peace in the world. Peace is not a default. It's not a default. It doesn't just happen. It has to be, deliberately executed and, with foresight and with strength. And the point I'm trying to make is once you get through and get to a peaceful situation, think about the world growth that's going to follow when everybody suddenly can make decisions not based on, are they going to bomb my building? Are they going to do this? Are they going to, and all of a sudden world can start acting in a more harmonious manner. Yeah, okay, I know that's glory days and but that can happen if somebody takes a leadership role in getting rid of all these threats. And
what do you think about the issue with Spain here that's popped up?
They've got another prime minister that is not part of really what's going on, similar to what Canada has. He made his decision. He's going to live by it. He's coming out with his comments saying, we don't care. Okay, well, Spain does care because Spain requires tourism and Spain requires to be able to export its goods. And if they can't export to the largest market, that was a silly political decision he made. They're part of NATO. And, either you're in this and NATO is in this, as far as supporting the United States move. And this is exactly back to the Greenland issue. Like, can we trust NATO? Is NATO? So I'm not worried about, what the Spanish prime minister is saying. I think he'll probably be driven out of power anyway. It's a flimsy coalition he's got.
I agree.
So
looking at AppLovin here, many of us were talking about AppLovin back at 350 a share. We liked it back there on that bounce. And here we are now at 455. So again, things that got out of whack, right back up. The narrative there was that software was dead. I guess software's not dead, Steve.
Yeah, I guess. Which stock is that, Steve?
AppLovin.
Yeah, there's another one, right? And look at that sell-off from its peak, on all that narrative about AI. It's not dead. You're in a point in time where everybody's examining, saying they're putting all this money in. Are they ever going to get money back? I mean, one thing I question, so to be part of, at least a sensible narrative, is that programming changes so rapidly. In other words, just look at your iPhone, look at your computer. It's almost on a weekly basis you're getting upgrades. So
yeah, but we talked about this morning that Apple's upgrades weren't that good this time around, right?
Yeah, but you're still continuing to get them. And my point is you get a data center and all this money being put into data centers. Think about the jobs because they're going to have to be continually updated.
Yeah.
Whatever software NVIDIA puts in, all of a sudden it's outdated and you got to have the new one. And as you highlighted the other day, Steve, the infrastructure, or a lot of what AI is built on, is still the old school infrastructure. So
Indeed.
How could you talk about these companies as, it's not going to, this is just beginning, inning one. Maybe we're one batter in, two batters in, but there's a long way to go in this play.
Oh, I'm loving baseball now. It's time for baseball season, is it not?
Yes, it is, Steve. And how could anybody beat the Los Angeles Dodgers?
Well, that takes one thing. It's money, right? That's all they got. It's money.
Yeah, well, and then
be careful out there. Jim Cramer's talking about Palantir on PLTR now on CNBC, so be careful. He is talking. Global U.S. services PMI coming in at 51.7. We expected 52.3. Final composite PMI of 51.9 versus 52.3. So the PMI numbers off a little weak there, Steve.
Yep. Still elevated, still above the, the 50 line, but yeah, Steve, that's the global composite, right? Okay, so right. Yeah, that's kind of echoing what I'm saying. There's glimmers of hope out there, but central banks are going to have to support this growth, and I think that could be, we've got 2 weeks to go to the central bank meetings. A lot can happen, as we know. This war could be over. Then what?
Right. What do you think about the sell-off in Asia?
Again, panic-driven. A lot of that move happened in the early open part, which means everybody had stacked their orders in. So when the market opened, it was a deluge of sell orders. Following along with this narrative and the craziness of what happened in the New York market, it wasn't a shocker to me.
I am looking at KF, which is a Korea fund out there that I'm very interested in. KF, I'll pull that up as well.
I would imagine if that's trading in our markets that it's already got a nice bounce.
Yeah, not quite there yet, Steve, but you can see here that it's down. It's back to 48.59. They don't get a lot of volume, obviously, but I am looking at some funds in Korea there, because I think the sell-off there is way overdone, Steve.
Way overdone, Steve. And again, I'll bring back my example. If they're flying B-52s, it's over.
Right.
So, yeah, is Korea involved in what's going on in the world? If we're talking AI, yeah. Will they be, a core player in it? Absolutely. So, when you see a sharpness of a sell-off like that, back to the left side of that, look at that basing on the left of that. This is a good entry point. And clearly, that where you're on the further left of that top, that's where your exit point is. So, it's a very clear, when you look at charts like this is exactly what they give you: location and exit. If you don't like the trade and it trades below that level that you've just highlighted there, you're out of that trade.
Yeah.
But, you're in the zone where right now, if you've been watching Korea going, oh, I really want to get into this trade, boom, you've just been given on a silver platter.
Yeah, and I actually am, Steve. EWY is what I am looking at. I am making a very large order here on EWY here. So this will be a longer term play here for me. Probably, and I see longer term on this one. It is a play. So we call that a swing trade, folks, not a day trade. We are swing trading. So I am looking at a little bit bigger here move. And Steve, to me, I'm looking at the 140 to 160 handle here, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, you don't look for, where's 140 at, Steve, on that?
I'm at 130 now. So if you look here, you can see 140 should be right about there.
Perfect. Right before you get up, because are you going to play for a new high? Why do
Well, I
that?
think what I'm going to do is I want to see it close this gap, right? I mean, the last 2 days of selling in Korea have been high, and I really like that selling. So, yeah.
And oh boy, I'm digging back into my memory banks here, but the Kospi in the electronic marketplace, I believe the amount of how much that market is electronified, it was at one point the highest in the world. So when you see a move like that, yeah, you've got to take advantage. A simple mean reversion on that probably is, you know, a nice play, unless of course another headline drops or, you know, something does happen in the Straits of Hormuz. But I don't think that's going to happen now that the Navy's going to be, you know, pulling ships through. I mean, follow oil if you want. If oil starts, you know, dropping, then this becomes even a better play.
I like this play here, Steve. I like this play a lot here, actually. All right, TGT Target. Yeah, the last few days. I mean, you know, Target was done. As the company was over, the company was done and in the toilet, and $82 a share back in December, and now we're back to 123 with a new CEO, a new turn, right?
That's one I don't like to touch. I kind of stay out of the retail space, perhaps except for Amazon, but Amazon is involved in so many different things like a Tesla. But, you know, Target, yeah, I mean, when it was down at those lows, they were talking the demise of that company. So another example of, you know, do you want to listen to the narratives or do you want to make your own decision? If you walk in there and go shopping there, they've got everything. So clearly they're not going away.
Wow. All right. We got about 8 minutes down the top of the hour. What are you thinking, Steve? We have a bigger day to the upside, or is it flat like we've got right now? The Q's up about 140 points here, and the Dow down a little bit. The SPOO's flat. What are you thinking today?
I think you're going to see a mild up move, which is retracing part of yesterday. I'm not looking for a big move up at all because there's so much ahead of us, so many unknowns. But I will say, if everybody wanted to use the narrative from yesterday of oil equal inflation, sell, then watch oil. If oil is in fact the pivot, then watch the oil price. If oil starts coming off, you want to be long, moving into equities. So I'll keep it real simple. That's how I'm looking at it. I don't expect a big up day. In fact, what I do expect is a gradual move. I wouldn't be surprised if we're eke out, you know, a small 0.5% up, maybe after yesterday. And I think if the news doesn't get more negative over the next 24 hours, we'll come in tomorrow and we'll have a similar type of move.
Okay. I think you're right, Steve. I'm a little concerned about, I mean, I'm looking at my numbers here and, you know, we're just too sentiment driven right now.
Yeah.
That's my only concern is it just feels like any single headline that comes out, we just get crushed.
That's correct. And that's your bots. That's all your automated trading. They pick up a headline and they hammer it because they know they're going to lead the market in that direction. And everybody then goes, oh, that's a bad headline. Well, they've already sold. And they're probably on the bid waiting for everybody to go, that's a bad headline, I better sell.
Is it good news is good news and bad news is bad news, or is it bad news is good news and good news is bad news?
Right now, no. I would say bad news is bad news.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Right now. But the moment bad news comes out and you don't make a new move down, what does that mean? It means they're all over the bid.
During Vietnam, Steve, when the news would come out with the number of dead and read names off, did that affect the markets and the psyche of people?
Yeah, Steve, that was driven home on a daily basis. If you remember Walter Cronkite, you know, You're even testing me at that time. I was a young teenager back in those days, but I do remember every evening news with Walter Cronkite, which was what everybody watched for their information. And you know, when that list would go, it was a real downer. You know, you came away very negative, and it really did influence a lot of the sentiment of the time.
I mean, obviously, we're not in the situation where we're in Vietnam. We're not in that quagmire, but we are definitely we're stuck our nose in the Middle East quite heavily here.
Yeah, especially from a president that has not wanted, you know, those type of moves, right? So I would say, Stephen, my view right now, if you're going to call me out on it, this is
I'm not calling. Yeah, I'm asking because I really don't know the situation here. I mean, I can't go back that far. I can't remember. You know, I obviously remember Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Desert Eagle, but when you look at the Gulf, it's been this way a lot, right? And
yes,
the question mark, you know, okay, well, here we are again. Last time it was Iraq with Saddam Hussein. Then there was Afghanistan. And now here we are in thinking of Iran. This is not Afghanistan and this is not Iraq. This is a bigger country, a very proud country. Yeah.
It's a good point you're making, Steve. In each of those cases, Afghanistan, Iraq, in each of those cases, a lot of the problems in the world have been, if we keep going, Somalia, with the Houthi rebels. If you want to go into Lebanon with Hezbollah, and then you've got, you know, each and every one of these has been funded by Iran. So when you're going after Iran, you are lopping off the head of the snake. And my point was, I believe this will be over by the end of next week. I wouldn't even think that maybe over this weekend you're going to see a lot of conclusion. You have complete air superiority. Now, are they going to put boots on the ground? You know, I don't think that will be an advertised point of view. But I think that this will be over rapidly. And then what happens next? Well, you've got the Abraham Accord already signed amongst most of the Arab nations and Israel. You could actually envision a world of peace. And I think that's the part that we're not picking up on here, is that, yeah, nobody expected the United States to do this, although, you know, you telegraphed it pretty good by putting half your Navy out there. But the downside or the upside is that peace. That's something that, how do you price that into the marketplace?
Well, I think you price it pretty well. If it happens, I think the market goes up. Man, people want clarity, right? They want to know that peace is happening and breaking out everywhere. But, you know, you see videos of Iranians going to the streets and yelling death to Khomeini. And then today it was death to the United States again.
Yeah, I agree. We have not seen the type of mass protest or supportive protests against the Iranian regime.
Right.
Maybe that's a testament to just how many they killed in the last month.
Could be. That's a very good point. I didn't think of that. That's a very good point. Do you think that there is, I mean, the sheer amount of death that has happened on the Iranian side is really pretty high, I would say.
Yeah, you know, I mean, consider protests in the United States. Right or wrong, not going to pass judgment. But what my point is, consider the protests that we've had in the United States over the last year or two. Pick a big one, a big protest. Think about all of a sudden the police force going in and just killing everybody. I mean, that's what happened in Iran.
You mean Kent State?
Could you imagine if they just opened fire and just killed everybody? It would never happen in America. There'd be a revolution, but it's happened in Iran.
Before. It's happened before in this country.
Yeah, but it's happened in Iran. I think what you're going to see very shortly, Steve, is an incredible public move against the right now they're still trying to vote in what, his nephew, his son, or somebody as the next leader. I don't think that the religious, I don't think the religious aspect of leading Iran is going to be a solution that's going to be agreeable by the people. And I think that's what we're going to see.
ISM services coming in at 56.1, expected 53.5. That's a bullish move here, Steve. Those are good numbers here. Prices paid coming in at 63. This is lower. Expected 68.3. Employment numbers 51.8. Expected 50. So look at this, Steve. Big numbers. Look at the new order numbers coming in too. New orders 58.6. Expected 53.5. Hey, the president may be getting his what you said is a good economy here early.
Okay, first thing we're watching, oil. Watch oil price. If oil starts to peak and drip, which it will, then
it is 74.04 right now, dropping.
Then you want to be in on equities. 2, bigger picture, watch these numbers. Now you're beginning to get a string of numbers that are beginning to show manufacturing growth in the United States. That was the game plan. If you begin to see a string of numbers coming out that are showing this, well, there's so much money. I don't know, what did he say, 18 trillion? Let's just say it's 10 trillion. Think about all that money that's coming in and going to be building plant and equipment. I mean, this is a positive story. That's what I like. When the negatives get as high as yesterday and they are irrational and the market is just being led by like the Pied Piper, that's when I go back up. There's got to be opportunities. Yeah, I thought it would continue today. I layered the market below with buy orders, like what I call wishful buy orders. I didn't put them in yesterday because I always want to see, and I have them in the market. I may never get executed. I really hope I do. But then if I do get executed, that means you probably got another 2% move down in the marketplace, which I really don't want to see. But I think this is going to wrap up real quick, Steve. And I think when it does, the sentiment will have to swing. That's why I watch the dollar. The dollar is telling me that the sentiment swing is in progress.
CoreWeave now pushing to the highs of the day, 79.30, 79.44. Now the highs of the day on CoreWeave there. I am still, as you know, I bought back in. I can't help it. I sold up here, bought back in, and I'm going to go long. I think these numbers are really good, Steve. I think I'm okay with this. There is a little bit of selling, a little profit taking on this, but those numbers were really good.
Very good, Steve.
OpenAI says their next AI model will have extreme reasoning.
Oh, here we go.
Whatever that means. All right, Steve, top of the hour. As always, we crushed it again, the markets today. Look at this, these numbers. Look at this. Look at we 3 wins today, back to back, and talking about the market and politics and getting it straight and trying to make the right decisions here. And you've been right, Steve, saying that the economy will turn around and do better. And that's what we need to focus on more than anything else. Dollar is now cutting its losses, 98.93. Another thing that you've also said, Steve, to go right back up. Look at the dollar pushing right back up, Steve. Steve Flanagan, once again, crushing it right here on Quasar Markets. For those of us at Quasar Markets, Steve, I'll see you on Friday, man.